Hi everybody, Jameson. I hope you don't judge my presentation too harshly. I know you've seen 100,000 of them, whatever, so take it easy. I'm Colin, as he said, and I appreciate the nice introduction. Also happy to be here in Taiwan. Very thankful for that. Today, I want to talk to you about turbocharging your company, your startup, with organic growth and a global mindset. So you might be asking, what does that even mean? Organic growth to me means any way to grow your company, usually at low cost, but combining product and marketing elements instead of direct advertisements to integrate in a positive reinforcement loop. So I'll get into examples with that, but it's basically, think about it, if you're not paying directly for the users, I consider that organic growth. Global mindset, what does that mean? Well, it means a few things. It means looking at the best examples across the globe and using them to inspire you within your own home country or to expand to other new countries. So today I'm going to give you guys two of my keys, two secrets of growing your companies outside of Taiwan. But first, it's time for a story. So 8 years ago, I didn't know anything. Frankly, I felt like I was clueless. I graduated college at Cornell. I studied computer science. I worked at Microsoft and Amazon, but I still felt like I didn't know the world, I didn't know how to run companies, all that stuff. So I quit. I just quit my cushy job at Microsoft, and I was like, all right, I'm going to start making apps. This was 2011, the App Store had just really come out, and I joined an accelerator. So I took my dating app, it was my baby, it was tiny, it was nothing, it had literally less than 100 users, to an accelerator in San Francisco, and through random luck and spotting a spark of growth, I was able to turn that into 6 million users. Fast forward over those 4 or so years to 2016, we had grown to 6 million users worldwide. We spent $0 on advertising, on paid direct advertising, and interestingly, I learned how to expand organically with users, with revenue, with everything in a short 4-year period. So after 4 years, I was a solo founder, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to sell. So I sold to Paktor, they're a Singaporean dating company. And when I sold, I became their head of Paktor Labs, which meant not only am I going to grow down and all my stuff in the US and elsewhere, but I'm going to take on Taiwanese apps and Brazilian apps and learn how to expand them. So by doing this, we ended up expanding some of the apps by 20 times within a year, just by using this simple framework and these keys that I'm going to tell you. 2017, our company merged with 17 Live, which, as you know, is a local success story here. I took on the head of marketing in Taiwan's headquarters, and I also became the first VP of growth and started the growth team. So, of course, you might imagine an American running a Taiwanese marketing team. Sounds challenging, it is. But we came up with some key principles and philosophies that allowed us not only to do marketing in Taiwan, but to do marketing for all the other regions that we are covering. 2018, I started expanding our company to Hong Kong, to Malaysia, to Singapore, to Indonesia. And through these lessons, we built a playbook that our marketing and product teams, and then soon our growth team, could use to make sure that when you expand a new country, you are learning the previous lessons and you're adapting to the new market. Also, our top success story was expanding to Japan. So our marketing team in Taiwan ran the entire playbook for Japan in the first 3 to 6 months, helped them plan out their exact timeline, when they're going to buy ads, where they're going to get their organic users, how they're going to optimize their app store, all this good stuff. Finally, in 2019, I became the Chief Growth Officer, and I took that growth team to the US to become the CEO of our US division. We launched in the US with a big splash, and thankfully, it continues to go well. So, as you can see, in 8 short years, which matches up with Jameson's timeline, 8 to 10 years, I went from knowing shit to knowing a lot about global expansion. I want to share with you those 2 keys. So, exactly what did I learn on this journey? 2 key lessons. Of course, there's lots to learn, but these are the 2 that I see startups make mistakes on the most. Number 1, empower local product adaptation. So often, I see startups just say, you know what, we have a successful product in our home country, in Taiwan. We're just going to find a marketing agency in a new country, push it out there and see what happens. It doesn't work that way. So how do you adapt it locally? First, have a local pulse on the market. This means talking to experts, hiring people who worked in that industry, and hopefully include some of them in your product team or have a local product team. Second, make it the priority for your product team to have that be a successful launch in a new country. So often startups are running their cash cow business in Taiwan or US or wherever, their home country, they try to expand, but they don't give it the priority for the product team. In those early months, 3 to 12 months, you really need the product team to adapt rapidly so you have product market fit. So, there we go. Cool. So of course, it's not all rainbows and sunshine. There's failure, okay? And I think one thing that I want to make sure everybody understands as I work with startups in Taiwan is that failure is a completely natural and acceptable part of running a company and running startups. What's important is that you learn from it and you talk about it openly, because that's the only way to really get lessons from it. So, we failed when we tried to expand 17 Live into Indonesia. Now, it wasn't a complete failure, it wasn't, try and then nothing happens. We actually ran it for about 1.5 years, 2 years there, but we were never really profitable, and we didn't overcome the local negative market trends that we kept hearing from the experts on the ground. We had that local pulse, but we didn't listen to them. We thought we could overcome them. Second, it was a low priority for our product team. So because it was this low priority, we didn't adapt the product in smart ways to make sure that the local market enjoyed what we were doing and it took off. For example, in Indonesia, they were telling us we need to make the Android app smaller. It's too big because our low-end phones can't handle it, and so we only are getting the top 20% of users. Of course, our team had other priorities, so we didn't do it. And when you don't listen to the local pulse, your whole product is not going to adapt properly. So now for some success, some happy stuff. We expanded 17 Live into Japan. Now, why did it succeed? 2 key reasons. Local resources were part of the product team. We had Japanese PMs, designers, and a content team that had actual influence and spent every day trying to improve the local product. And second, even though our product was still mostly developed in Taiwan, our headquarters, the local team spent many months, many quarters, coming up with different features with the local Japanese team and actually improving it on a micro basis every day to make sure that we found product market fit. So we put the focus on actually improving, and that launch was really successful. So successful that 17 Live is now the #1 app in Japan. Within a year, we had made the market 3 times as big. So one mixed result that I want to share a bonus on, just because it's not all black and white. We did expand 17 Live into Hong Kong and the US as well. And these were successes, but they weren't runaway successes like Japan is right now. So why did that happen? One, we didn't have the local product teams. We had experts, but we didn't have PMs, we didn't have designers, we didn't have all the input that we need on a day-to-day basis to make sure we're adapting the product and marketing well. 2, had low to medium priority within headquarters. Because Japan was growing so well, it was always a constant battle, trying to get the features adapted, trying to try new things, trying to make the app slimmer, stuff like that. So the only thing that really saved it is smart local management and creative marketing. So still in Hong Kong, 17 Live is the #1 streaming app by revenue. And in the US, we had a big launch, so much that the Japanese colleagues we had were impressed and said, we're on a better path than we are. But when you don't have the priority and you don't invest in it as your top priority, it's not going to have the runaway success that you want. So the second secret, the second key to growing outside of your home base, new channels, borrowed lessons. So how do you do that? You want to research new channels to reach whatever audience you want, your customers, or maybe it's one side of your marketplace. And you do this with surveying entrepreneurs, startups, journalists, reading the actual surveys that are done in terms of social networks that are used, and make sure that you thoroughly know what is being used and how to reach people. Even if it's niche, it's useful to know what the differences are from your other markets. brand successfully in other countries, or if you don't have one yet, look at what other companies have done. So if you're a food delivery app, look at what Uber Eats has done, look at what Food Panda has done, look what Deliveroo has done in that country and other countries, and see what you can borrow from that, because there's no shame in learning from others. So again, I want to show you a failure example. My original dating company, Down, I expanded it in Asia with ads. After the acquisition, the team wanted to make it much bigger than it was, and they said, we can take this profitable company and make it a huge company. Well, unfortunately, they didn't follow these two steps. First, they went straight to Facebook ads instead of looking at what are the local channels in Asia. So for instance, in Taiwan, people might tell you, oh, look at the forums like BTT and Dcard. They might say, go to some YouTube influencers, stuff like that. Instead, they went directly to Facebook ads, which as most of us know, are usually pretty expensive and require that your app has a high LTV already and a working product in that home market, in the market that you're in. Second, the previous organic book Playbook that I handed off after 4.5, 5 years of hard work about getting good word of mouth, integrating it into the product, working with local press, all this stuff, creating referral feedback loops within the app. They didn't follow it. They just said, Facebook ads, dump some money on it, and let's see what happens. And unfortunately, it ended up not making money for them. So, successful example, 17 Live in Japan. We talked to startup execs, we hired them, and we found that Twitter was the key channel that we wanted to reach people on. Compared to Taiwan, compared to Hong Kong, Twitter's useful and big in Japan. So, we created not only a natural, organic representation on there, lots of social media activity, then we started running ads, and it really took off as a key way to reach people. Second, like I said, we used this playbook that we designed in Taiwan and handed it off for them to grow their streamers, users, and revenue. So you might be saying, okay, that's great, blah, 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 but is there a way that I can do this every day for my company? How do I adapt this so I can put it into use? Well, this is the SMILE framework. And I came up with this because I kept having startups. They would say, I understand the lessons, and then I would check in a month later, and they weren't doing it. They said, I feel lost. I don't know how to keep coming back to growing my startup and make it part of our everyday process. So, SMILE, the first one, S, success. You need to define, as a team, currently in this snapshot of time, what does success look like for you? So, maybe ask yourself, what is the biggest challenge we're facing if I vastly improve this one area, that it'll drastically change our company's outcome? An example of this for 17, when we were launching 17 in a new region, our first definition of success was not users watching. It was the number of streamers who were active during the day when you opened the app. So we wanted to fill that side of the market and make sure we had enough content that was active whenever you open the app during times that people are typically awake. So what does that mean? It meant we had to recruit enough users, enough creators, and incentivize them to stay active and provide good content. So next, M, metric. So if you've heard of the North Star metric, this is where you can apply it. It's basically in this current timeline, what is the most important thing that you are going to measure? And how does it help you improve your success? So a lot of companies think that you can't change your North Star metric. You totally can. In fact, we would often change it every few months. But the point is that your team is always looking to that metric and reporting on it every day to measure your progress against that success that you defined before. So for 17, we wanted to measure how active our front page was using something we came up with called daily active streamers. So it's just how many streamers log in and actually provide content for a minimum amount of time every day. 30 minutes was what we used. And so all of the factors that you could imagine that go into that, newly signed artists, attractive contests that they can brag about on their social media, their earnings, and the contract structure we had with them influenced this metric a lot. Next, ideas. So this is the fun part, by the way. You get to brainstorm ideas that actually help this metric. Do this as a team, get a wide variety of people, and Make sure that you're using positive things like and, not but. So add on to what people say. One important aspect I'd like to focus on with startups is getting into the psychology of the audience that you're targeting. So get into your customer's mindset. I'll dive into that a bit more. But first, examples. So this is something really powerful. We would look at what our competitors did in the country already, and then we would go and we would try to adapt that and come up with better things. Finally, think big. So make sure if money weren't a problem, if resources weren't a problem, how can you increase that metric 10x? Make sure you keep those ideas flowing so you don't get stuck in a box. So psychology. I like to go through personas and make sure that everybody can use these every day. So first, map out the type of targeted users you want, including demographics. Imagine yourselves in their daily lives. Base these user types on your existing user base if you can. And create names and characters for them so that you can use them every day and refer to them. One we had in the US for 17 was Jess. She was 24. She worked as a part-time influencer and model. I knew how much money she earned. I knew her interests like singing and fashion. I knew she spent a lot of time on Instagram, and I knew that she dreamt of being famous. So for ideas for 17, we used the psychology of streamers, and we used our digital playbook to make contests for streamers for new users, to run flashy prizes. These are all ideas we brainstormed and came up with, appeal to their desire for fame, and they posted to a lot of new Instagram channels and a lot of new content. Okay, I gotta move a little faster, so I'll go here. L is to lay out. So you wanna lay out the promising ideas and plan how you're actually gonna attack them. So you choose the best ones and you balance the impact that they might have, and you balance the implementation that your team has, the ability that you have to do it. Make sure that you understand how it could improve your metric. And then you take the best ones and plan them out. So we planned out dozens of ideas for recruiting and incentivizing streamers, front of the app promotions, social media contests, referral programs, etc. So finally, E, experiment. So this is the key part. And this is where over and over, you're going to iterate and try new things. You're always looking for a spark of growth so that you can double down and try even more in that area. Iterate on them with variations, and then repeat the layout and experiment steps to make sure that you come back to this every week to try new ideas. In Malaysia, we saw a spark when features got their 15 minutes of fame by being featured on the App Store and within the app. In the US, it was when we used billboards in Hollywood, and then everybody was talking about it and hustling to win the next one. So for Down, the dating app, in 2014, I noticed a small jump in downloads one day. I investigated that spark of growth, and I found that it was because we were ranked for one of the keywords on the App Store that I unexpectedly saw. So I doubled down on that, and over the next 3 iterations of the app, we actually increased the downloads by 10x. So it's a sort of process you can see in work here, both organically and with paid ads. So you might be asking, does this even work? Well, as Chief Growth Officer at 17, we were one of the top grossing apps worldwide while I was there. Google Play, App Store, and overall. So this stuff really works. Where does it work? I've now worked with startups and seen growth in over 25 countries where we focused. And of course, with the App Store and Play Store, it really works pretty much globally. Who uses this system? Right now, I'm working with a Silicon Valley company that makes about 200 million US in revenue. I'm on their board, and they're implementing the system. A top grossing Taiwan app, so homegrown right here, was able to 20x their growth in users and revenue while I was head of Paktor Labs and working with them. The #1 live streaming app, as I mentioned, 17 Live, while I was CGO. And the successful launch of 17 Live into the US. So, right now, what I'm doing is I'm working with over 50 startups through accelerators like Mobile Only Accelerator and others outside of Taiwan to help their companies adapt the system and take these 2 key lessons. So final reminder, remember to smile, remember the system, and if you have questions, feel free to contact me or ask them during the fireside chat. Thank you all.